Hey everyone, welcome to Creators and Coffee. I'm your host, Erica from Autofluencer, and joining me today is Sonya Klaus. You may know her from her socials as Sonya Slidez. She is a racer, she's a content creator, she is an actor, she is a former marketer currently, but also a former software person running operations. She's a former nurse. She's literally done all the things. So, welcome, Sonya.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Erica.
Thank you for
Glad we're
being here.
finally doing this.
I know. We've been talking about it for well, since PRI last year, I feel like. So I met Sonya at PRI last year through our friends at Advanced Clutch and was just so taken aback with this, how professional she is and everything that she's doing. It's so much like we would try to connect and she's like, "Oh, I'm going to film here. I'm going to race here. I'm going to help this brand with their activation." So she's got a lot on her plate. So I do appreciate her taking a little I think we actually had to like schedule this in between shoots and Grid Life, Laguna Seca. I think there was a lot going on. So thank you for making it. And
Thanks for having me.
one of the things I really wanted you to talk about, we cover a lot of different topics here on Creators and Coffee, and it's, education for people around it's being a content creator, putting together strong partnerships, lasting partnerships, and really advice for brands and creators or racers. And, with you, it's interesting because you got into automotive a little later, right? You had
Yes,
a kind of
a lot
2
more
other
later in life.
careers
Yeah.
before and then content creator kind of after that. So how did you get into content creation to begin with?
I'd never had a career in automotive or had even grown up around automotive. I was actually a nurse. And then growing up, I just always loved cars and was admired them, but I had never had family that, was into it or anything like that. I actually broke my ankles in a car accident, and that is the catalyst for me going into nursing. And then,
Huh.
so I was in nursing and I just kept saying, like, okay, I'll make the money and I'll do the car stuff one day, and then ended up breaking my back while I was nursing. And that was then the catalyst for me to be like, okay, I can break my back doing literally anything. I might as well go after what it is that I want to do. And life is just too short.
Oh,
So while I was still in a wheelchair, was just like, I had a 2008 350Z and was like, at the time, was going to go drifting. I was getting it ready, doing all these things. And then a friend of mine was like, oh, have you ever tried grip racing, which is like road course? And I'm like, "No, I haven't done that. I'll try it." I just wanted to drive. Like, it wasn't a specific genre of driving. I just really wanted to drive, although it started in drifting. And then I just, like, went to my first event, and I don't know, the competition bug just, like, pinched me and was like, "Alright." I was like, "I need to figure out how I'm gonna compete and what I need to do," but at the time, I didn't really have a whole lot of money or, even as a nurse, it was still very difficult to, like, do the things I wanna do. So, I started to teach myself how to work on cars, through YouTube Academy, good old YouTube, and that is kind of what led me into the content creation side. This was in 2019. I wasn't
right.
like, necessarily trying to create content for this audience. I have no audience. Like, I
Right.
just
Right.
I just really loved cars. I loved, like, finally being able to go and compete and work on it and do it, and I knew nothing. I mean, I still don't know everything, but I definitely didn't know anything, and I just figured maybe there's somebody out there that doesn't know anything or as much as me as well, and maybe they'll get a laugh out of it. So that's kinda how it started.
So it started there, which is really not that long ago, right? 6
Yeah.
years ago. But you've done a really amazing job of now parlaying that into other opportunities in media, right? Like, I think one of the biggest things I hear and you still race, but whether it's from racers, it's from builders, it's from enthusiasts that are content creators, and depending on the level, right? There's definitely some content creators. I talked to one, I won't name names, very large, and I was like, with so many people that don't get paid, he's like, "Who doesn't get paid?" And I'm like, "Oh, well."
Whoa, sweetheart.
I'm like, "You're in a different, like, world." I was like, "Most automotive creators don't get paid, like,
Yeah,
you get paid
exactly.
in product, not cash money," and I think that's a misconception, but you have figured out ways to get paid. So talk about some of those other ways where you've now taken the content creation in other directions, tangential, but a little different.
So my philosophy when it came to that stuff was always like, under promise and over deliver when it came to the content side and to the brands. I think my background, the fact that I had already a career before had given me a leg up in terms of the maturity that was needed to approach these kind of deals because I didn't whenever I was even starting out with sponsors, first of all, there were a lot of things that I bought on my own, obviously, in the beginning. I bought all these things. I had been utilizing people's products for years and years before I had ever made contact with them. And then I think through just the other things that I was doing where I was doing social media and I was just in the room for a lot of different things. So there was one thing that I was at a car show and it was the first time I had ever taken my car to a car show. So I was just genuinely excited to be there. And this person just walked up to me and was like, "Oh, I have a 350Z." I was like, "Me too." And we just like got to talking. I was just like genuine and I loved just being able to connect with people. And he was like, "Oh, by the way, I am like the salesperson for this thing called Zeiss, which is Zeiss lenses that, use in camera equipment." And he was like, "We're promoting a lens. Would you like wanna do something?" I was like, "Yes, yes." Wasn't asking for money. I wasn't, I had never done anything like that. It was my first time ever even being on camera. And so as we were doing it, I was just so genuinely excited and engrossed in what was happening. And I think they also saw that. So what was supposed to be like a 4-hour shoot turned into 3 weeks and then turned into a mini documentary, and then just kind of snowballed from there. That's kind of what led me into more of the content creation and the acting side that we can get into later is, I just well, that was my first time on camera, and it was very, very natural. So I feel really bad because I don't really have a whole lot of, life advice when somebody's trying to say, "How do I be better on camera?" It's be yourself, but I know that's really difficult for people to do when there's, like, a camera
Yeah.
pointed at your face. I don't know, like, it was just one of those things, and I didn't know it until I had a camera and a whole team there, and I just was, like, normal. I was just myself. And so that snowballed into then like another person saying, "Oh, we need another person for this one show. Oh my god, I just worked with this girl named Sonya. She's really good on camera." So that's how that snowballed. There's so many different things where it's like it's kind of a blurred line where it's not this like linear, very
Right.
easy, very
Never
straight
is.
line. Exactly. So when it comes to like how I approach, those brand deals or like how I started to get into a place where I started to get paid, when I approached companies in the beginning, I was only given product as well. And there's still some companies I'm only given product. I over delivered, but I also made sure to figure out what it is they need because it wasn't so much what I needed. Like that will get handled. It was more like, okay, I would sit down with them and figure out, okay, where is your marketing needs? Like what's going on? Where's the ROI here? Like what would success look like for you? And I really set up that structure in every conversation I had. So they understood that I was not just there to like slap a sticker on and get a discount. I was there to be part of their team. Like I wanted
Right.
to be part of their team. And so that's how I approach every single brand deal, every single conversation, everything that has to do with that kind of partnership. So
Yeah, I love that so much because it's one of those things where while it gets said, I don't think it can be said enough how important that is. And to so many of the marketing managers I met, even of seemingly large companies, like I think a lot of racers think like, oh, that company's huge. They must have a huge budget. And a lot don't. And you'd be surprised at how lean some of these companies run. To have someone say, how can I help your team? And they're like, oh my versus, "Hey, I'm doing this build." Like, I literally saw someone send an email. They sent an email to us. They're like, "I'm doing a build and I'm trying to raise sponsors. Would you be up for $3,000 to sponsor this build?" And it was like some random details. No, like it has nothing to do with what we do, but it was just, and I'm sure after those kind of conversations that, they probably go back and go, "Yeah, all these brands are jerks because they didn't sponsor. I couldn't get money from anybody." But to your point, because
there's a
that's not
reason.
how you approach it.
There's
It's
a
not
reason.
about you.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly, and I think a lot of people just think like, "Oh, well, this YouTuber's doing it and this YouTuber." Okay, but there's a difference. So, when you are seeing these larger YouTubers or whatever it might be, and they're doing these builds or whatnot, there's a certain amount of deliverables. There's an ROI at some point. So, whether that be viewership, deliverables, and or this person's gonna be representing the brand in this regard, there's business deliverables that need to be addressed, and people just think, "Oh, like, whatever. I'm gonna put a sticker on the car." Okay, that's great if a brand's initiative is brand recognition and just overall, like, just they're trying to get the brand name out and for a visual. But if that's not where they're at and you don't even know, like, where they're at, then what business do you have having that conversation with them if you're not even trying? Like, they're not gonna try either. You have to really approach this as a business because it is. And so I did that from the very beginning, and I do believe that that is what led me to the success that I've had today. But also, like, just having genuine relationships. Like, when I'm having conversations and meeting people and certain things like that, like, I'm not just like, "Oh, what can I get out of this?" Or, "What is it
Yeah.
what's in it for me?" It's more I'm just like, this is a community that I hope to be in for a very long time. I want to build these relationships because these are the people I'm gonna be seeing all the time. These are the people that are day in, day out are gonna be if they're not in one company, they're at another. If they're not at one event, they're at another. So, like, these are people that I wanna build a relationship with, not just and that's the same thing for all the brands. I'm building a relationship. I just don't wanna be one of their line items. I wanna be a relationship.
And I think if we had a word cloud of all of the creators of coffee, relationship would be like the biggest word in that word cloud. I think the other thing I've seen in you, Sonia, just getting to know you is kind of what you're saying. You are genuinely curious about the person on the other side. You genuinely want to get to know them. You genuinely want to know their struggles or how you can help. And that comes across, right? Like they will open up more if you are genuinely interested, even if nothing happens,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
You genuinely want to know. And I actually remember one of the first times we met, you like, you always ask, how can I help? Which is a huge I think if anybody could just take that sentence, it's such a powerful sentence. "How can I help? How can I be of service to your team?" is just really powerful, right? Because it shifts that dynamic and it shows them that you kinda wanna be a team player.
Even in our situation, like, we were at a space where I really wanted to help, and then our timing was just not in the correct way. But it's like, if not now, then there is gonna be a time at some point, there's a relationship that's being built, and there's gonna be
Mhm.
something that comes across that even for a brand, right? If a brand say they say no to somebody, I never look at a no as a never. I look at it as
Yeah,
a no as a, "No, not right now," but
yeah,
there's an opportunity later because there might be something that comes down the line where they're like, "Hey, we need this person that has these
right.
exact traits and this," and they're like,
Yeah,
"Oh my gosh, I have the perfect person." But if you don't maintain that relationship or you just burn your bridges all the way through, like, that's not gonna ever happen for you. And also the automotive community is actually very small. It seems huge, but it's not. It's very small. And if you burn a bridge, most likely you're burning a bridge forever. And you don't want to do that in a community that's
yeah,
so tiny. You'll
yeah.
isolate yourself.
You can't take anything personal too, even if they say, "Not right now," no, or they don't respond at all.
Yeah.
'Cause that happens too, and that's okay. Like we said, they're busy. They have so much on their plate, and depending on the program, some of our brand partners get 800 to 1,000 applicants for their sponsor program. And some can get through and message everybody, and some just can't, right? Like, but keep coming at it. Or we have some where they are do a great job, kind of like you were saying, is they create a wait list. Hey, not right now, but we're acknowledging this person's on a wait list for us for these types of scenarios. And when they finally have that scenario or the need for that kind of build for that particular product, then they do come back around. So I think that's a really important point is to remember you can't take it personal and you can't be like, oh, that guy was a jerk. And say it to somebody else in the industry because that person might work with that person or know them. And it'll get back around.
Yeah, I think the other thing is people like they just assume that people are just sitting there waiting and looking at your emails and like all and we have to realize that some of these companies, like there's companies that may look very, very large from the outside, but they may have a lot of people on their team on the operations side or the warehouse
Mhm.
side, but they may not have enough people on the marketing side. Marketing typically is one of those sections that end up having the least amount of team members unless it's a company that is on it and they know. But a lot of times that's the team that is like the most likely the skeleton crew. So, and those are usually the people that are looking at these applications. So, if there's one person looking through 900 applications, like how long would it take you? It would take you forever. So it's like just like in a job, right? Like if
Mhm.
you're applying for a job you really want, you can follow up and you can get creative about certain things or if you see them at an event or whatever, just like, make contact and then if
Yep.
it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, but at least like they'll remember your name hopefully.
Yeah. I think one thing you were alluding to, no, when you're at events, you're at maybe you go to SEMA or PRI, is if you are using a brand's product already, you can post about them now and tag them to get on their radar, because I do hear brands make the comment like, "Oh, I've been seeing this person tag us. I've been seeing them." And then you can leverage that to make an introduction, I think it's a good way to get on people's radar, especially if it's a product you already use and love, because they know you're gonna be more authentic.
I think that's another piece where, like, a lot of people end up missing, where they're like, there's nothing stopping you from making product videos or making content or anything about the stuff that you already have. And like you said, like, if you tag them or if you do a really good job and you make a really cool video, like, it's gonna be hard for them not to notice. And
Mhm.
although even if you guys don't partner up right now, that is also on your page as a portfolio piece for other companies. So that's another thing
Right.
that I found very important is that I may not be working with someone that I specifically want to or whatever it might be. I have to remember that my Instagram is now being curated to a way that it is my portfolio. So other companies are able to like look at my portfolio and especially we always have to put our Instagram or like our social media handle on any of those applications for partnership or for any of those things. They're going to go to your page and see, okay, alright, it's cool. You got our attention. What do you do? If you don't have those things already on your page, what reference do they even have? Like, they're literally going off a whim. They don't have any kind of tangible references as to what you can do or what you can
Right.
provide, so they're not
Right.
really gonna.
What it would be like. Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like, make the content now. Do what you want
Mhm.
now. You don't have to wait till you are with the company. Do what you have now so you can almost put it on your page as a portfolio. And then, once a company comes through and sees that, they're just like, "Oh, we want them to do that for us too."
I'll use Instagram specifically, but you can have as a highlight on Instagram called, product reviews or my favorite products. And that could be a highlight of just different stories where so you can aggregate them all together and they could be stories maybe from original reels. And then you can have them all in one place to make it easy for those brands, to see like, oh, this is how that person talks about products they like. This is how they do an opening video or a install video or a testimonial video, this is they can get a sense and a feel for that. I love that advice. Now, let's talk about, you made the comment how you got into then you started getting into acting as a result of some of your really on a fluke. So that fluke would be like, oh, she was just so lucky. Yeah, but she also talks to everybody.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. So
being chatty not chatty, that's the wrong word,
yeah,
but
no,
being
I get it.
engaging being engaging and genuinely curious and wanting to get to know people played very heavily into you getting that first opportunity where you realized you were pretty natural at it. And I would say there's a lot of content creators who stay intentionally behind camera, so they don't even know if they're good on camera because
Yeah,
they've never really tried. And you can go on camera without having to post it. Right? You
exactly.
can practice being natural on camera. It's a lot like public speaking, right? The first time you do it, you're probably sweating and your face turns red and you're all nervous. You can't remember what you're going to say. But as you practice, right, it gets easier, it gets better, it gets more natural. Talk a little bit about, opportunities you've gotten in that world, because it's not like, acting on TV shows and stuff, but there's some really interesting opportunities that I don't a lot of people even think about when they think about kind of parlaying over to the production side, which does pay well.
Yeah.
It's a paid for your time situation.
So in the beginning, when I was doing like that Zeiss project, the 3 weeks and all that time, like I didn't get paid for any of that
Right.
because
Okay, that one she did get paid for.
it was one of those things. And then, that opportunity turned into another opportunity where I was flown out to do this one car show. And again, I wasn't paid for that. I said yes to a lot of these opportunities because I was like, I'm not in a position to say no. I don't have the experience. I don't have the background. I haven't built any of that up or the credentials or any of that for me to even ask for anything at this moment. I'm not saying that it has to be like that for everyone, but that was the path I chose where I was like, you know what? Even for experience, I'm going to do this. That is one of those things a lot of times people they'll say, "Oh, like, we'll pay you an exposure." And I know that's one of those things where you have to just figure out for yourself if that's gonna add to your initiative and to your overall goals, and if in the future, if this is gonna that piece is gonna help you, and it did for me. So what it did was it provided me more time on, like, actual productions, like, huge productions. So it gave me and also gave me face time with these directors, these producers, casting agents, all of that, and boy, did I take full advantage of that. I was like, "Hello, I'm Sonya. I'm Sonya Klaus. This is what I do. I'm from here. I want more. I love this. Ah." And I really did. I genuinely adored being there. And I would sit there with the crew. I would eat lunch with them. Like I wasn't like off with the talent because the talent, that was another thing I didn't know the etiquette. and I didn't know the TV world, and I still kinda don't, but, like, there was, like, a group of talent, which is, like, the main talent, they would be off eating by themselves, and then there's the crew, and I would be sitting with the crew because I, like, relate to them more, and I'm like, "Oh, I wanna know how to do this." So, again, I was just genuinely curious about those things, and then that led me to another thing, and another thing, and another thing, and eventually, when I got to a space where I was doing more and more of these things, then that's when I realized, like, okay, I think I'm at a space where I have enough experience and that I can start to have, you know, a reasonable rate. I can even charge, a rate. It was very, very low in the beginning. The other thing that happened was when I started doing all these things on TV and all this stuff, and I was like, is it just a fluke? Like, am I just good at automotive stuff? Or can I do this outside of automotive, like in actual acting? So I signed up for my first acting class. I was so nervous. I walked in, lo and behold, I could do it there too. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I went, got headshots, and I got all this stuff done and started applying and self submitting and doing all, and like learned that side of things outside of automotive, like more commercial acting, and just started submitting myself because also commercials and things like that pay very, very well. So I was like, oh,
Right.
I could just, like, do this, like, one time really quick, and so that kinda just snowballed, so I still have that side of me where I do commercial acting, non-automotive, but then, have my space in automotive media.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of a intersection.
But I think it's good for people to know that that is an avenue. And then did you have to work with like an agent to get those opportunities? I mean, you hear a lot of people say that. Like, I know a lot of it seemed to come from just conversations you were having. But like, do you have an agent? Is that something you've spun up?
I don't necessarily have an agent. There are some people that I'm just starting to work with that we're kind of exploring what that looks like, but for all the years and all the stuff that I was doing, I didn't have an agent. It was just kind of word of mouth, and it was just one of those things. So, like, I didn't have anybody that was submitting me or any of that. I just kind of figured it on my own. I had commitment issues and, like, didn't wanna be, because I wanted to be in charge of how I represented. I wanted to be in charge of me, and the thing that I worried about with an agent, not so much on the commercial side, but on the automotive side, is that, you know, I'm tied to that agent. I'm tied to those people for an extended period of time, sometimes longer. So if I don't mesh with someone, I can't trust them to be representing me because I wanna represent me. That's kinda what I didn't go with
Yeah.
an agent forever, and it also is very different on the automotive side. On the TV and
Yeah.
commercial side, it's easy, like, there's, like, agents and managers all the time. But in the automotive stuff, where I was like, I'm not necessarily going on acting stuff, it was, like, other things, like hosting and all that, and that's a different world, and the niche is even smaller, and so, you can't just submit, like, regularly. So, there's still an
Right.
area where I'm trying to figure that out. I am, like, working with some people now that, like, I work on projects here and there, and I've had people that, have, like, referred me for something, and so, yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. Now, probably people listening to this is like, "Oh, Scott, that's so awesome. Like, she doesn't have any worries in the world." Right? So, like, she's got it all figured out. What are some of the things that you are struggling with besides kind of navigating the waters of like, how do I apply for this versus that? What are some things that you're kind of dealing with in the world of like content creation meets production meets?
I'm at this space right now where, I started off because I just wanted to do car stuff. Didn't know it and just post it, right? Was just posting because in my eyes, no one was looking at my stuff. It was just me and so a couple people were giggling and that's it. Now I'm in a very different space where I have very large named automotive companies that are literally looking at my page, body armor. There's like, large companies that have now eyes on me. And so, of course, I take it very serious and I'm also very professional. So like, my Instagram is curated in a certain way that I want to be perceived. I don't just willy-nilly just put whatever I want. Having said that, there is this line between the loss of creativity or the loss of feeling like I can't show everything
Mm,
versus curating what I want to be seen.
right. A persona.
Yeah, and I'm kind of, like, in the middle of that because, like you mentioned when you first introduced me, I'm a hyphenated human. I do a lot
Right.
of different things, but my page is just automotive, like, it started Sonya
Yeah.
Slides, it started in
Yeah.
automotive. So, as I'm starting to extend and reach these other aspects of my life, I'm just kind of at the space where I'm like, "Okay, do I put it all into this channel? Do I start another
Right.
one? Do I?"
Just pick
So
one.
I'm constantly trying to figure out, like, what's the next move for me? What seems the best for me and my space in this automotive, like, world, and it's an interesting space because, like I said, there's what I used to post before doesn't necessarily resonate with me anymore. Do I just completely change my style? Do I do this?
Right.
And when you have so many more eyes looking at you, and it's funny because I'm not a huge creator, but the people that I do have are, like, big for me. And so, there's, like, this invisible pressure that is there
Yeah.
that nobody
Yeah.
else is seeing, but I'm like,
Right.
"It has to be perfect," and it
Yeah.
doesn't.
It is hard though, right? And especially as you're balancing kind of two worlds. And I think a lot of creators probably struggle with this of how much of themselves can they always be, or how much of their other aspects or other hobbies. If this is all automotive people in an automotive audience, what happens if I introduce my love of cooking, my
Yeah.
hiking, or my other things, or even just more a day in the life of me? And will that resonate, or will that, or do you need to start new? An interesting person to talk to, we actually had him on Critters and Coffee, is Dylan from the Rab Factory, and he went through this. He had actually a pretty decent cooking page that he'd kinda started in COVID, and when he started to introduce automotive stuff, it tanked
Oh, yeah.
because everybody on it was there for the cooking. They were there for the cooking, they didn't wanna learn about the rest of his life. They didn't care that he was into automotive stuff, and so he had to create a completely separate page all for that side, and now that side has done well. And but it's definitely an interesting conversation. I think a lot of people are grappling with that
Mhm.
right now, and just how much of yourself are you putting on there too,
Yeah,
right?
because, like, you
You
grew
know,
that audience in a certain fashion and a certain
yeah,
niche, unless you grew it just based off just your all your life, but if you only grew it in that niche, then only that those people are you have
yeah,
2 choices when you want to start introducing things. You
yeah,
either start to just show everything and you're going to lose people,
mhm,
but you will gain, like, a different type of tribe, or you go and start it off somewhere else and then just be split, and I don't really know, like, because there's a lot of health stuff, like, I actually go through a lot of health stuff, it's so when people are just like, "Oh, like, Sonia, you have it all," I'm like, "No, I don't, I deal with a lot of autoimmune stuff," like, nobody sees the amount of struggle that I have to go through just to keep myself going on a daily basis and or per event. Like, I have a lot of I broke both my ankles, I broke my back, like, there's repercussions to those things, and then on top of that, I have autoimmune stuff. So, anybody with any kind of challenge can figure things out if they stick with it long enough. They just
yeah.
have to just figure it out for themselves and what path makes sense for them.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this was great, Sonia. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And good luck on everything you've got going on. I know I'm going to see you at some of the shows coming up
Yeah.
here. What's your next kind of big event you've got going that you're excited about?
I'm doing Radwood and Super Street After Dark this Saturday, and then I think after that, we're at SEMA, LA Auto Show.
Yeah.
I'm hosting all of LA Auto Show, that's new.
How cool is that? That is
Thank
so awesome. I
you.
love
We've
that.
never done an ambassador before, and I'm the first one, so just a little bit of pressure, but it's,
I
I'm
know. Now I feel like I gotta fly to LA from New York just to come to the auto show. We gotta get you on for the New York Auto Show. I'm hoping I can get my tour guide spot again. I used to be a tour guide when I lived in New York City
that's so
before,
cool.
and it was the best. Like, people are always like, "What would you do if you had a bajillion dollars and you didn't have to work?" I would be a tour guide. Like, that is my dream job, is
Actually, I could totally see you doing
Oh
so
my god, and all the quirky little nerdy things,
yeah.
and so I would learn from, like, all of these press people that did tours at New York Auto Show, and I would learn, like, all their little things, because I wasn't a full-time press person, and at the time, I was in a different side of the industry too. My old software company, our clients were car dealers. We did social media for them, so we claimed I was, like, media, and so I would do these tours, and it was literally the most fun I've ever had, and they paid me. I would have done it for free.
Rest.
I was like, "I get paid to do the coolest job." I still wanna approach SEMA at some point of, like, doing tours at SEMA, like, maybe on the
It should be
consumer
so
day.
cute.
Like, I think it'd be fun to have, like, tours of, like, "Okay, over here, we're gonna be
Hey, come
checking
on,
out the"
people, come
yeah,
on.
like, you do something, I don't know, but it has
I
nothing to do with my
could so see okay, if anybody anywhere ever says, "You know what? We're thinking about a tour guide," because I'm like,
me.
I already know who.
I will take a pause from running a software company to go be I'll be your tour guide, right? It's like, I'll be your Huckleberry, I'll be your tool guide. And that's very exciting for you at the LA Auto Show. I'll see you at SEMA. Thank you for spending time with us, all the great information,
Thank you.
and see you soon.
Thank you so much for having me. Alright, bye.
Bye.